series. We're on session 3 today, and we've got Dave Bassett here about how do your customers think. Dave is from Brand New, and we are missing a couple of people today, so please don't mind the distraction of them walking in.
Yeah, thanks, Gabby. Well, first of all, congratulations for getting up at this time in the morning and braving the sleet and the hail. In fact, it is hailing because I could see it on the windows. I don't know whether it's just up this high or whether it's actually at street level, but it's not too pleasant, is it? Now, we've got, I think, probably roughly an hour or so, and what I want to do with that hour is talk to you a wee bit about how customers and clients make decisions and what we as businesses can do to take advantage of what we now know about how humans think. It's always amazed me that you know, we can head off in our various businesses, marketing departments, you know, making decisions about markets, but very few of us really fully comprehend or understand why it is that people make decisions or how they make decisions. In fact, a lot of market research work over the years that I've seen comes back saying one thing about what customers do, but we know darn well they end up doing something completely different. So that's always intrigued me, and I thought, well, what's behind this? Why is it that we seem to get it so wrong? So hopefully I'm going to explain a wee bit about that and what we now do know. Neuroscience and cognitive psychology has come ahead in leaps and bounds, even in the last 5-10 years. What we now know, not believe, what we now know about the way the brain works and how we think is truly astounding. And it just amazes me that we haven't hooked into this stuff and made more of it. So anyway, let's go for a ride. I want to... my computer's seems to want to do other things. I don't want this to be a monologue, so if anyone's got anything to add or questions to ask, please just leap in. Okay, we were talking about this when I first came in, a number of us. Things have changed. And the thing that I think is so fascinating is what we're actually looking at in terms of market conditions is not an apparition, and it is something completely new. It has not ever happened before, and I don't see a lot of businesses and organisations taking cognizance of just how serious and what the issues are. I mean, there's pluses and minuses. First of all, it's an environment that we're not used to, so we've got to understand a wee bit about how it's working and why it's working the way it is. And the second point is there's some great opportunities that have never ever been here before. So the first is pretty evident. We're in a recession, and I heard on the news last night that business confidence is up, things are on the change, that businesses are apparently going to be paying more in wages. Well, I don't think so, I've got to say. I've got other evidence that suggests that at least for this next 12 months things are going to be as tough, if not tougher. In fact, almost in the same breath, the newsreader said there was a freezing works that had just laid off 160 people. So we're going to have a rough year. It's going to be all over the place, and we just better get used to it. And this is not a recession in the conventional sense of the word, because we're not going to go back to doing business the way we did before. It's a change in the way we work. The second issue is what I call the great disengagement. Our conventional ways of reaching, and I think right at the beginning of the session TVNZ talked a bit about that, how above-the-line media is making significant changes because of what's going on. And what's happening is the amount of publications and media vehicles are so vast that we just can't see and read them all. You know, if only we were back in the days when there was only 3 TV channels, because as an advertiser it worked like magic. You couldn't fail. There was techniques such as road blocking, which were just brilliant. You knew you had the entire New Zealand population watching TV. But sadly, we're not going back to that. So, and in fact, last week, I have to confess, I didn't make it. I was in Australia. But talk about social marketing, that's another nail in the coffin for that direct route to our customers. So things are changing there. Our markets are disengaging. And lastly, what I call the Great Flood. And this is another thing that's not going to change. We've got now more products and services than we've ever had before. Every single category has got more competition, more products, more services than ever before. Nobody can have a category to themselves. It wasn't always like that. You know, if you opened a business up 20, 30 years ago, you'd expect to do well. You know, there'd be a market there that would buy your products and services, and one day you'd sell your business. Well, it doesn't work like that anymore. Anyone that opens a business today, starts a business today and thinks that they're going to be able to sell it, think very, very carefully, because that ain't the case. So these are the problems, but the question is what are we going to do about them? Okay, does anyone know who this is? He's actually been out to New Zealand. There's a guy called Monty Roberts. Anyone heard of Monty Roberts? They call him the horse whisperer. And Monty figured out that he could break a horse in half the time it took conventional methods, i.e. whips and ropes, which is a pretty cruel way. Has anyone here watched horses being broken in? It's not a pleasant thing to watch. And it's basically thrashing the horse into submission until you can get on it. Now what Monty said is, well, it doesn't have to be like that. If you actually understand how horses think and how they behave, you can actually get them to believe that they want you to ride. And that he does that, and he's a very clever guy. If you ever get a chance to go listen to this guy, it's quite extraordinary. So the thing is, I believe we've got to do the same with brands, products and services. Gone are the days where we can just bash a market into submission, just buy heaps of space wherever and think that that's actually going to do the trick, because it won't, mainly because our wallets just aren't deep enough. But secondly, our audiences are becoming a bit more sophisticated. So the question is, where does business come from? And no matter where I go, I ask this question, people say, where does business come from? What do you think the answer is? It's overwhelmingly the same all the time. Where does your business come from? Yeah, referrals. Yeah, what's that? What do we call that? Word of mouth. Okay. So overwhelmingly people tell that. I mean, anyone here sort of believe that's the same with their business? Yep. So overwhelmingly, business comes from word of mouth. It doesn't matter whether you've got a restaurant, whether you've got a professional services firm, word of mouth, word of mouth. I hear that all the time. So, you know, the question is, do you have a word of mouth strategy? I say that to businesses, what's your word of mouth strategy? And they look at me totally blank. Don't know what you're talking about, word of mouth strategy. Well, if that's where your business comes from, how come businesses don't have a word of mouth strategy? Isn't it extraordinary? All I'm going to ask you to do this morning is think differently, all right? We don't have to think the same, we can think differently. John Wanamaker said once, I know half the money I spend on advertising is wasted, but I can never find out which half. And he said that about 50, 60 years ago. So this problem's been around for a while, and I don't think the answer's been resolved yet. John's dead now, unfortunately, but I'll let him know what the answer to his problem is. Media, in other words, the way we reach our audiences, is really all about profile and awareness, but that's only one half of the equation. The other half of the equation is about meaning and value. And I don't see a lot of that going on. Businesses are hiding their value. All right? If there's an overriding thing I see all the time, businesses hide their value. All right? Because if you can't have one of these without the other. You can't have profile without meaning and value, and you can't have meaning and value without profile. They go hand in hand. You've got to have them both. But we focus on raising profile, thinking that that's actually going to work for us. All it does is create noise. So you don't own your own brand. It resides in the minds of your customers. It's what they think of you. It's not what you think of you. What you think of you doesn't really matter. And the reason for that is you ain't paying the money. You know, the person that pays the price for the products and services is in control. So what they think of you is what counts. What we now know is customers buy emotionally and justify intellectually. All right, most purchasing decisions, including business to business, is emotional. All right, and here's the ratio. It's about 80-20. All right, I'm a fisherman, not a very good fisherman, and I lust after a sage fishing rod.